as a firefighter, first responder, you have the ability, and this is true of my friends in the military as well, you have the ability to navigate different situations and be pretty much self-confident, self-aware, make decisions on the fly until you can't.
Yeah.
You're under too much pressure, things have gone too wrong, then you have training to fall back on.
Yeah.
And the training kicks in.
Yeah.
You stop thinking about what you're going to do and you just do it.
And at the same time, I'm like, in this war, so few practice, so few train.
Oh, yeah.
That's why there's so many in the POW camp.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's not because they're not Christian men. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about saved and unsaved. That we're not talking about that.
Right.
You can be very captive and very false self-dominant and very under the influence, under the spell of the enemy, and be a Christian.
With God, there is always more. More love, more life, more freedom. Welcome to Zoweh's Exploring More with Michael Thompson. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Our Heavenly Father has provided many delightful ends for us along our journey, but He takes great care to see that we do not mistake any of them for home." Join me and the team as we explore the kingdom together, discovering the deep truths and offering encouragement for the journey. There is always more.
Welcome, friends and allies, to the Exploring More podcast. Michael Thompson hanging out with SJ Jennings.
I'm back.
You are back. Josh he did all right.
Yeah, he's a good pitch hitter.
He is. And he got to be lead off.
He did.
In this series at our conferences. We have something that we do in the welcome, in the intro. We talk about the 4 assumptions of a man that's attending this, that you need 4 assumptions that we're making, because this is what every man needs to see,
right,
believe, and kind of bring into this environment,
right,
so that they can go after more.
Right. So we assume you've experienced these
that there's
things,
a foundation,
or that you know these
yes,
things. Yeah.
and a willingness. And so, first one that we covered last week with Josh was the first assumption is you're a kingdom man.
Right.
Talked about getting your citizenship in order, adoption, being a kingdom man. There's a certification that goes with that, and there's a seal by the Holy Spirit inside of us that we are His and He is ours. You're a kingdom man. Secondly, which we're talking about today, is we are at war. That's going to be fun. Talking about we are at war, especially just with the 80th anniversary of D-Day. We'll get that in some more in a minute. I want to hear what you have to say about that.
Oh, man.
And then, so that's what we're talking about today. And then next week, we're going to hit the third assumption, which is restoration is available. And then the fourth assumption is that God still speaks. And we've touched on a lot of these. I was thinking that to get with Caleb and say, hey, here are some previous podcast episodes. If you can help me remember that, we can get them to Caleb so he can get them to. Here's some previous podcast episodes that talk about similar things, but maybe not in the way that we're going to talk about them necessarily today.
Episodes that are related.
Yeah, that would be good.
We can refer to them.
That would be good. But for this podcast, Exploring More, we're going to talk about we're at war and warfare, which it's good to talk about. It's good to be reminded about. And so I thought I would show you. You haven't seen this clip, so I want to show the clip. This is from the film The Great Raid. So it's based on a true story, but there are some lines in here that I think we've shown this at our weekends.
Yeah, I've seen the clip before, but it's been a while.
But I want you to hear it, and I want you to hear some of the truths that are in this story that are true for our story.
Sure. As
kingdom men, we know that we are at war. And so, and what we're going to talk about, what the war's about, what the war is over, the enemy that comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and a lot more stuff.
Okay.
But I just want to get our audience, and particularly you, with this reaction of the trailer for The Great Raid. So here we go.
I'm here to tell you, men, we finally got a mission worthy of Rangers. Going to push right through our front lines and rescue 500 American prisoners of war. Before you start congratulating yourselves, remember that you haven't achieved a damn thing yet. You're the best trained, least proven battalion in this whole army. This is your one chance to do something about it. I mean one chance. Is that clear? Yes,
They were husbands, sons, and fathers.
So I'll try to get back in one piece, gentlemen.
And so were the men inside.
I've spent the last 3 years thinking of all the things I want to say to her.
This woman is the head of an underground movement.
Who do you think smuggles all the medicine into the camp?
It's not enough. Let's get out of here. It's a setup.
Their mission was almost certain to fail.
There's too many unknowns. I cannot guarantee the safety of those prisoners.
250 Japanese in that camp. Another 1,000 at the river. 10,000 more nearby. Only 120 of us. I figure we're gonna need a little miracle.
She stayed behind in the Philippines to be near you. Do you have a reason to survive this war?
I'd like to be here for your surrender.
But when faced with the unthinkable,
As we advance on this area, I believe the Japanese will murder these prisoners.
they would try the impossible.
Some things gotta take on faith.
Miramax Films presents the true story of the greatest rescue mission ever attempted.
Dear Margaret, what a comfort it's been to know there's someone who desires our life more than our enemy desires our death. Without their hatred, there wouldn't be your love.
And a moment in time when men of honor became soldiers of destiny.
This is the kind of glory you carry inside you for the rest of your life. Nothing in our lives will ever be as important as this.
Ready?
Ready? It's time. There's a price for freedom. A price some are willing to pay.
You may want to rewind that and watch it a couple more times. It's ridiculous.
Oh man, go watch the movie.
It's
too.
ridiculously
It makes me wanna watch
good.
I haven't watched that movie in 10 years.
Yeah,
probably.
it's
I
but
want to go back and watch it again.
so before you get to really react,
Yeah,
we're gonna take a break and then we'll come back and kind of process this trailer, this parable, true story, and what it has to do with our second assumption that we are or. We'll be right back.
Men are seeing higher suicide rates in this country, and
I think a lot of young men are
supposed to be
actually
tough.
looking
Emotion
beyond
is
that
the toxic
question.
masculinity.
How did masculinity end up here? Being known for causing harm, being violent, overpowering, and unsafe, and being relationally destructive or relationally absent. This is not who men were created to be. Men have been the target of a long and brutal assault by an enemy that knows what we might become and fears it. At Zoweh, we believe that if men are a big part of the problem in culture today, men could be a big part of the solution. What if masculinity was safe and loving? What if masculinity was adventurous and encouraging? What if men were brave and empathetic, engaging and helpful? What if masculinity looked like Jesus, kind and strong? What if men were no longer dangerous, but dangerous for good?
Welcome back to the Exploring More podcast, where we are at war.
Yeah.
And we just watched the trailer of The Great Raid, and so I saw, like me,
Fast
man,
and Furious
the pin. I mean, line after line
Mm-hmm.
after line that resonates with. And it's interesting, bro. Before you tee off, it's interesting. faith-based podcast, you know, like-hearted Christ followers moving in this direction. You can show that trailer to any man.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa, wow. I love that. And you say, what did you love about that?
Right.
He'll tell you.
Yeah.
Because instinctively, innately, there's something that resonates with the idea, with these ideas. So what came at you? What did God show you? Where did your heart go?
Yeah, just you know, when you receive healing and training, then you're at least prepared in some degree to go rescue POWs, which is what their mission was. They were going to go rescue some POWs.
Yeah.
You know, the men on the outside were husbands, sons, fathers, and I heard him say, and so are the men on the inside.
Yeah.
You know, the men who are trapped, the men who are living in the smaller story, in the smaller gospel, in, you know, false self-dominant.
Yeah.
They're POWs. But best trained, least proven, right?
I love that,
so,
that line.
I mean,
at the very beginning.
I remember we talked about it earlier today. You brought it up in another meeting we had. The first encounter weekend I went to, I walked away from it saying, you know, I don't even understand half of what I just heard. I just know I want to hear more of it, and I want more men to hear it. So I was getting training, but going back and trying to pull guys in and help them understand why they should come.
Yeah.
I mean, I think 6 guys came back with me. I thought I'd get 60 guys the next year.
It's hard.
6 guys came, and one of them was my kid. So like he was conscripted, you know?
Yeah, captive.
but I felt like going back, I was more trained, but I was not proven yet. You know, I didn't understand what it meant.
But that second time through, I had lunch with Kevin
Gunter
yesterday, and he was talking about his reading the book a second time.
Right. Oh yeah.
And he's like,
wait a minute, I didn't see that in here.
Yeah, highlighting and underlining and seeing and hearing more than he did the first time, and how and just it was an honor to just hear how Heart of Aware has impacted him, and he's reading King Me now. So to your point, there's a training that's needed. But he says you're the best trained, least proven. Oh my gosh! I think, man, I don't know that I want to be that guy, but I think you have to.
No, I've been that guy.
But you have to be that guy for a time.
That's right.
There's an important reality to you need to be that guy, and then push through.
You really, I mean, just you know, to dig into that a little bit further, you know, as a firefighter, first responder, you have the ability, and this is true of my friends in the military as well. You have the ability to navigate different situations and be pretty much self-confident, self-aware, make decisions on the fly until you can't.
Yeah.
You're under too much pressure, things have gone too wrong, then you have training to fall back on.
Yeah.
And the training kicks in.
Yeah.
You know, you stop thinking about what you're going to do and you just do it. Maverick says it when he's talking about flying. You don't have time to think about it. You just have to react. Yeah. And so that's that training that can kick in for you, even though you're the least proven guy, right? You can fall back on that training.
And there's practice. I think the athletic example is practice. I think and at the same time, I'm like, in this war, so few practice, so few train.
Oh, yeah.
That's why there's so many in the POW camp.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's not because they're not Christian men. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about saved and unsaved. That we're not talking about that.
Right.
You can be very captive and very false self-dominant and very under the influence, under the spell of the enemy, and be a Christian. We see it all the time.
Absolutely.
So the training and the practice. Guys that know theology, guys that got the academics, and I'm talking about even the pastoral and church leadership, sometimes those guys hit the headlines, pastor fails, pastor,
found an
scandal,
affair or embezzlement or whatever, yes.
So it's not just the academic training.
Right.
And the book training, which is is important. I'm sure as a firefighter, you read and
tons
manuals
of
and
manuals.
how to operate the equipment, what to do and not to do.
350 hours a year in
so
training.
You read it, and then you need to be deployed into
and
live
even, man,
training.
I remember, I don't know if I've told this story before, but I had some scary moments in the fire service. I had moments where I didn't think I was getting out. Floors collapsing. It was so hot it melted my helmet, one fire, the visor on my helmet. But one of the scariest moments happened to me when I was in training. We were doing a live burn, just training on working in a burning building in a controlled environment. Well, fire is only so controllable, and my Scott pack failed. My air pack.
For oxygen?
Yeah. And
wow.
Had to call a mayday in a training session. So sometimes that happens too. Like you're in training.
Oh yeah,
you can get wounded, you can get injured, you can get taken out.
We live near Fort Liberty. We live near Fort Bragg. I mean, these places where there's military training. Yeah, guys.
Yeah,
incidents happen.
Unfortunately, get hurt. Taken out.
Yeah, it's
even during
real.
the training time.
Anything else on the video?
Yeah, one thing I heard him say, they were unsure about the mission. There's too many unknowns, and there are overwhelming enemy forces. There's 250 in the camp. There's 10,000 outside the camp, and 25,000 nearby. I mean, overwhelming enemy because this is a company of men.
This is Army Rangers.
Of Rangers, yeah. So it's about 100 guys, I think. And so you're talking about 35,000 to 100. Not great odds, but we face overwhelming forces every day.
Yeah. I want to talk about. So that's part of this assumption.
Absolutely.
This assumption is that you understand that this is not metaphoric.
Right.
This is not just a.
It's not just for a sermon. It's not just for a metaphor, you said.
What I want to say, SJ, is this isn't a minor theme.
Yeah.
That's my point. The four assumptions are major themes.
Right.
Major.
Yep.
I don't know how that looks on camera. Major.
So major. They're foundational.
This is the context of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of this session, this podcast, what I'm hopeful is that it's not just random acts of violence against you in the spiritual realm.
Right.
It's an enemy that hates the image bearers of God.
Yeah, and they are calculating.
And it is calculated, and they are working within a systematic spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it now so I don't forget to say it later. To prevent the sons and daughters of God from living in their God-given identity, talents, ability, and glory, and bring that to the world. That's what they're doing. And the further back they can knock you from that, the more the world will suffer from not experiencing an image bearer who's fully alive. What did St. Irenaeus said? It's the glory of God.
To conceal them.
No, that's Proverbs 25. Right?
What was Irenaeus?
Now you got Proverbs 25 in my head.
I know. I couldn't get it out of my head.
It's the glory of God is man fully alive.
The
glory of God is man fully alive.
Yeah.
Woman fully alive.
Right.
Marriage is fully alive.
Right.
So this is why this is such an important thing to explore more and to revisit. And I like the idea that we're doing it. Yeah, we've done some podcasts on this before.
Yeah, but maybe not from this angle. We're looking at it from a little bit different
there's
angle.
one new listener viewer that hasn't heard any of the other ones.
Yeah.
And he's like, huh.
Right. One other thing I love, a couple more things really quick, and then whatever you've got too. But without their hatred, there wouldn't be your love. She's reading the letter.
Yeah, love letter from
the love letter. But there's that dichotomy. Yeah, it's a whole different conversation that we could have. But if we're not fighting this battle and we don't need this power and authority that Jesus went to the cross to secure for us, if we don't need it to fight this battle, I want to be careful how I say it. It's not that it doesn't matter as much, right? If there isn't a battle, but if you don't have a foe to defeat with power and authority, you really don't need power and authority.
Yeah, that's a great. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, so I just thought that was interesting.
In Matthew 28, so in Matthew 28, when Jesus says, "Now all power and authority has been given to me, and I give it to you,"
yeah,
that we must need some.
Yeah, yeah,
and
he's going to trust us. With
what
it.
for? To go share the 4 laws. Well, evangelism needs some power and authority.
It does, no question.
So sorry to be cheeky, but I'm saying, no, this isn't just the kind of disciples Jesus wanted them to make.
Mm-hmm.
We would say were dangerous for good men.
Absolutely.
Because when the disciples came into town, foul spirits said, "Oh, crap."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The book of Acts is about contention, strife, and spiritual territory that the friends of God are now equipped with the Spirit of God in Jesus' name.
Best trained, least proven initially.
Yes, and so here we go. It's learning how to, to experience the love of God, but it's also to wield. It's the ability to then wield that love of God that has settled your heart against an enemy who is just constantly wanting to chatter, spirit of accusation, spirit of diminishment, spirit of depression. I mean, we could go on. There's quite, there's how many of these foul spirits are there? And what are they doing? What are they doing? And what are they doing to you?
Right.
And if you don't know, stay with us. Yeah. We're going to talk about a little bit more of the significance of. It's going to, I don't know, SJ, it feels a little bit like, man, I just want to prove it. I just want to show how relevant and significant this is. But when I look at my life and I look at how easy it is at any given moment to step on a landmine in a relational conversation with somebody, hurt somebody, be hurt by somebody.
Yeah.
That's why The Matrix is so good. Because something in there that's profound, and I'd love to show more clips. I mean, Lord of the Rings, Narnia, these Tolkien and Lewis wrote about this stuff. Screw tape letters. I mean, these are all very, very helpful illustrations to help us understand how does this work. And a kingdom man, there's an assumption that he knows how this works. And unfortunately, most kingdom men don't. And so where I was going with The Matrix is the idea that, unplugging from a system, a fallen world that is trying to tell you who you are and who you aren't. And if we're getting our information, because most of our experience is deciphering information. What's happening? How do I discern that? How do I processing it? And I don't know about you, but I have a pretty good history of coming to the wrong conclusion.
Oh yeah.
If somebody didn't return an email, I had a guy that I was kind of trying to track down. He told me to track him down, so I was trying to track him down. And after 2 or 3 attempts, I just assumed, well, he doesn't care. The next day, I get an email, empty. So sorry, man. I've been so excited to get with you. Let's do it. Well, in the absence of information, we tend to go negative.
Right.
What's wrong with him? What did I do? How come he's not? And if you don't think that's part of this spiritual environment,
right, you're kidding yourself. Yeah.
You don't see what has to be seen in order for you to move forward. Another one is every thought my own.
Right.
Who's feeding me that information? And once it gets fed and kind of gets in the system,
if it gets repeated enough times,
right?
Yeah,
you're going to make a conclusion.
There's muscle memory there. I mean, with basketball player with free throws, you're on the line, you clear the mechanism, right, for love of the game. Of course, that's baseball. But you clear the mechanism, you go back to your muscle memory of what it feels like.
That's why you train.
That's why you do the 10,000 shots so you can take the one.
Yeah. And so instead of just reading about free throws,
Right. Get out on the court.
Instead of just reading about fire, you have got to connect that in the moment.
Right.
In relational spaces.
Right.
Because loving one another.
So you have training to fall back on.
What's the greatest commandment? Mm-hmm. Loving one another. What's the hardest commandment? Loving one another. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so we are at war over your heart, mind, body, soul.
Yeah, you can say it a different way. What's the greatest commandment? Intimacy with God and intimacy with others.
Yeah.
And one begets the other.
Yeah.
Right? I used the word begets.
Yeah.
I think I used it right, too. So one of the things that I just thought of that I got to go back and rewatch is the first couple of episodes of Band of Brothers. So today is D-Day, June 6th. We're recording this on June 6th, the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Unbelievable. Solemn occasions going on in Normandy this morning. And
some of the last of the veterans.
Oh, the last. Yeah, they're 98, 99, 100. Yeah. I mean, there's a 102-year-old guy there this morning. You know, so, but I think about training and I think about Captain Sobel. And everybody loves to hate Captain Sobel. And he's pretty easy to dislike. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I'll tell you, that company, out of that whole battalion, that company was the best trained out of all of them. Yeah. And they even mention it later on, like, how come Easy's always at the front or always at the edge of the fight? You know what I mean? Because that guy, Captain Sobel, and they even gave him that post, and it's a tragic story, his personal story, but it was a glorious thing the way he trained those men.
Yeah.
You know, and that training, many of the guys, they proclaim that the training they received from Captain Sobel is what got them through the war.
Yeah. Well, because while other guys were going on weekend passes and leave and stuff.
They were doing another run up Curry.
War doesn't do that.
Right.
War doesn't stop at Christmas.
Yep.
Warfare doesn't stop on the way to the Easter service Sunday morning.
Right.
I mean, I'm just saying that we live.
Yeah.
The assumption is we live in a world at war. There's a fallenness. Jesus is coming back on a war horse. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Robe dipped in blood. I mean, again, tattoo. Figuratively,
I
literally,
think tattoo on his thigh.
Figuratively or literally. I mean, this is what the scriptures tell us.
Whoops.
For the final chapter of the battle, the second coming is to defeat sin altogether. Satan altogether. No more.
Yeah.
No more fallen world. New heaven and new earth. So if you understand the last chapter, you understand J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle Earth. We're in the middle.
We're in the middle, right. So speaking of chapters
and
books, if you had one book of the Bible to learn about warfare, what we're talking about, which book would it be? Now, Caleb said Song of Songs, which I get it. He's in his early 20s, but I see his point. In many ways, I mean, there can be a battlefield there for sure.
Yeah, that's a great point. That you could, I don't know. So there's not a book that doesn't lend itself to this subject,
right?
And I think particularly in the New Testament, if we can just stay on that side,
yeah, sure.
Of the Gospels clearly are this huge conflict between Jesus and the establishment, and the King. The Messiah they were looking for and wasn't. And as I love those Gospels, and what Jesus talked about more than anything was the kingdom, and the kingdom is like, and the kingdom is coming, and power and authority all over the place, power and authority. And the epistles, I think the New Testament writers write about it because Jesus talked about it. And so you get more of that in their letters to the churches. And okay, and so, all right, such a trick question. What falls on me now is that there's two books, and I'm going to ask you, are you talking about the war within, or are you talking about the war without?
Yep. Because I think they're so connected.
Yeah.
Like it's I think it's the same, but for your purposes, let's start with the war within.
Galatians.
Yeah.
Spirit, flesh.
Right.
True man, false man.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just nothing.
Right.
Nothing like the contrast that Paul talks about in Galatians when true self, false self, and the spirit, the fruits of the spirit, and the fruits of the flesh. So
right.
I'd even narrow it down to Galatians 5, but you can't because you.
No, you need it all.
Any other.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that.
I'm not a theologian. I'm a self-proclaimed theological expert. So that's my my credential is. But when you read those 4 chapters leading up to, therefore, in Galatians 5, and so Galatians 5 is my. But if I'm wanting to grab one book that is going to be about how does this work in relationships,
right?
It would be Ephesians.
Yeah, Ephesians would be where I would go.
Ephesians,
and I think a lot of guys go to Ephesians 6, put on the full armor of God. Some guys go to Ephesians 5. Wives, submit to your husbands.
Yeah.
Please don't do that anymore, out of context. But you can't get to chapters 5 and 6 without understanding 1 through 4.
Yeah.
You have to go through that whole book. I mean, I would challenge do Galatians, do Ephesians, come back and comment to us, like, what did you see? What did you hear about this larger story about the world at war?
Start in Ephesians 5 and 6. Start in Galatians 5.
That's fine.
Because that is a waypoint that's really critical. I'm agreeing with you.
Context.
But get back to, okay, what is Paul talking about prior to this?
Yeah.
And so Ephesians 5, we talk about this in our conferences all the time. Be careful how you live, how you walk.
Therefore.
Yep.
Another therefore.
Not as unwise, but as wise.
Yeah.
Knowing that the days are evil.
Right.
So when I look at that, I think, do I see the world like that? I think we have the privilege of being maybe even lulled to sleep with the comfort and comfortability of life in the States, life in the West. I mean, there's a lot of poverty.
Oh, sure.
There's a lot of warfare.
There's
like land wars going on in the world, and I think the things that are playing out in the physical realm are because they're playing out in the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
And the things that are playing out in the spiritual realm are affecting, influencing firsthand the physical world. So I think that we really so awakening to this assumption is an invitation to training, to healing, because we've all been hit. We've all been hit. We've all been wounded. Another word for wounds is trauma. We've all been traumatized
in various ways.
And if it was or wasn't your mom and dad, and it wasn't in your formative years, I don't know anybody that gets through.
Unscathed.
5th grade, 6th grade.
No, it's total war.
Middle school, junior high.
Yeah.
Because if it didn't happen in your home, you are one of the fortunate. I'd like to hear more, and because I just know that there's things that can be so normal that you couldn't even go back and see them with a first pass. It's like you almost need the kind of training to look for.
Trained pair of eyes.
Your dad did what? He just but he provided for us. He came home every
it was an idyllic childhood.
We've heard hundreds and hundreds of men's
had a great childhood.
Yeah. So but my dad left when I was 11 and
but we figured it out.
Yeah.
Mom, I know, dude. And I'm laughing not because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's tragically naive
and rampant. It's pervasive,
right?
And so we just get used to conditional love. We get used to the voices that we hear. We get used to the how many, another thing we hear guys say, well, that's just the way I am.
Oh, man.
I mean,
it used to be one of my favorite sayings when I wanted to just excuse my behavior.
I get it.
And now I hear guys say it, and I'm like, oh man.
I know. So there's a unholy trinity, bro, as we land this thing.
Yeah.
And I want to set up the next assumption that restoration is available,
mm-hmm.
and then that God speaks, and that restoration is available because you've been hit, you've been hurt, you've been.
There's something that needs to be restored,
repaired,
yeah.
restored. Yes.
Yeah.
So restoration's available, and that is the journey of healing and
mm-hmm. training.
And as you enter into that, what's beautiful is the healing journey is actually the training.
It is.
It's the intimacy with God. That's not true.
They're two sides of the same coin.
And I could have you memorize a list, but when Jesus actually tells you how he sees you, or he shares that wasn't your fault, there's a reason why clips like that strike a chord with a lot of men. There's so many things that we don't even pay attention to as to why is that feel important to you. So slowing down.
Yeah.
Slowing down.
What was that? Why was I crying at that? Remember the long distance telephone commercials?
Mm-hmm.
I used to get emotional watching those.
Yeah, I saw
MCI commercials. Remember that?
Yeah. I saw. There was one recently, a Chevrolet, I think, commercial.
Oh, yes.
And she has Alzheimer's or something.
Yes.
They put her in the truck.
They take her in the Suburban,
yes.
and they go by the drive-in movie theater. Dude, I'm like, oh. It's so because it's loving. And I want to be loved and cared for that way. I want to be seen and tended to.
You don't even know it's a truck commercial.
Right, by the end of it.
Till the very end.
Right.
And those are the greatest commercials, right? Because you can't hardly forget.
But you're struck by that because, like you said, there's a chord that can be struck.
Yeah, so paying attention, being aware. This is the language of the New Testament. Be sober, heads up, be careful. I mean, all of this is about...
It sounds like warfighter language to me. Stay on guard.
Right? Your enemy, the devil.
Right. Stand firm in the faith. Act like men.
Yeah. And I love that, when these guys write about that, they're writing from not some theological research that they did.
No.
They're writing from their experience.
That's right.
They're writing from their experience.
Yep.
So in 1 Peter 5, that's my third choice, comes into play and talks about your adversary, like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. What the hell is going on?
Right. Yeah. Hey, a recommended resource I just love, and I read it probably once a year, is Screw Tape Letters.
Yeah.
If you want a little insight to what's going on in the bureaucracy of their side of the battle, and how much it is calculated. They have counted up what will happen, not just in your lifetime or in your family, but generationally. Mm-hmm. They've calculated the impact if they can take you out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's evident in this book.
They get a minute. I'm going to say it this way. They get a minute, they'll take a mile.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how the kingdom of darkness works, what they're up to. So there's way more. And I'm going to say, look, this is one of the things that in our journey and what we get to do with men, this is one of the pillars, this idea, this is significant. That's why we say that the assumption is really important. And we're going to help you even see more of this and what you've been up against all your life. And it's not random. It's very calculated. And so I want to say, all right, so the whole second part 2 of Heart of Warrior, is about warfare. 150 pages.
It's a great resource for that.
Moving.
King Me Too. Has
King
a lot
Me,
in there.
That whole Kings at War, it's the fourth part. Yeah, the trauma, the wounding, the ways in which we've been hit, how the enemy has used people to hurt us.
Yep.
And then what happens? Hurt people.
That's right.
Like you're saying, that cycle. I mean,
search and rescue too, man. Go back to the map.
The map.
You know,
man.
I mean, your heart is central in this battle.
I just finished a YouVersion devotional plan and turned it into to Maggie, who's our YouVersion director, coordinator, and it's all from Search and Rescue. I had the best time.
I'll bet.
Going back to a book that I wrote between 2009 and 2011.
Yeah, 15 years ago now.
And reading, like reading my journal, reading these. You know, so I'll close with this.
Okay.
This is good, Caleb. We're landing. Okay. Caleb's like,
he's giving us the high sign like 4 times now.
Land. So the one that I read, and it's in the devotional, is Daniel's son.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, man. That's such a good example.
It's early in the story.
Come back tomorrow.
He's met Miyagi. Miyagi, he comes to him, Miyagi rescues him, saves him, rescues him from the bullies.
He doesn't even know what he's come to Miyagi for.
No.
But Miyagi does.
But he watched Miyagi just, take out this gang of high school kids.
Yeah.
As he's getting pummeled up against the chain link fence, so he comes kind of holding, and so he's coming to the dojo for training. And the story. So I just got to read that again, wax on, wax off, sand the floor, all that stuff.
Paint the fence.
And Daniel has no idea that he's going through muscle memory. He's getting trained. He's getting reoriented to his body to be able to make these movements. He doesn't even know the master is training him. And he's trying to leave, and then Miyagi shows him what he's actually been learning through these chores, these disciplines, these day-to-day things, which is good. But better than that, better than the chores, bro, okay? Better than the chores is Daniel gets to see the heart of Miyagi.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not hurting you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not using you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm training you.
I'm blessing you.
Come back. Look,
Yeah.
Always look, come back tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So it was so fun.
That's great.
To kind of get back into that. So
that's great.
Anyway, that's the second assumption, that we are at war, and you less have to be told that and more want to know, how do I survive that?
Yeah, more awakened to it.
Right. And so that's
and once you're awakened to it, you see it.
More and more and more.
100%.
Yep. So thanks for joining us on the Exploring More podcast. We'll be back next week to talk about assumption number 3, that restoration is available, and it's pretty exciting what we're being restored to. That's why we're at war, and why the enemy would rather you not come into who you are in the kingdom. So hope that you enjoyed Father's Day. One kind of a late shout out for fathers and Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. And
way to go, dads.
Yep. Dads, this is good to see when it comes to fatherhood. Your fatherhood's opposed, your masculinity is opposed, your marriage is opposed. And so maybe you got Heart of a Warrior King Me for Father's Day. If not, go buy yourself one.
Yeah. Treat yourself.
It might do you some good. So we'll see you next time on the Exploring More podcast.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Exploring More. The landing page for this podcast is zoweh.org/podcast. That's ZOWEH.org/podcast, where you can find the show notes and various platforms to which we broadcast. You can also find us and the Life of More by visiting Zoweh on YouVersion Bible app, Right Now Media, our Facebook page, and Zoweh on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, with God there is always more, and you were made for more.